Hello, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So happy you're here. Today, I'm going to give you guys something fun that I've been working on the whole month of June, which is my garden. So you are going to get to see my garden at 3 different times this month and see how much really does change in a garden in June in Kansas in 20 days. So get ready for it. So today is June 4th, and it has been very rainy this past like week or so. But I'm going to show you what's going on in the garden right now. So first stop is the sage that was huge and beautiful at the beginning of the season, like last month. And I overwatered it and a bunch of it died. And now it looks like this. So hopefully by the end of June, that'll have a little more life to it. We also have this barrel over here that has a bunch of basil growing in it. I will probably thin this basil out at some point. I might transfer some more to the big bed that you see right here, which does have 2 basil sprigs. These by, August, September will hopefully be huge, big bushes of basil. We've also got this squash over here that I transplanted from a different part of the garden. I'll show you later. We also have this canna lily starting to pop up. This was what do they call those? Bulbs. A bulb that my mom brought. And you have to dig those up every year and replant them. And so this will probably be its only year. We also do have some marigolds in the very front, along with a bunch of weeds. I mean, so many weeds. But then also we have the tomatoes, which you can see. That's like the biggest thing right now. These my mom brought there, and these have gone from being teeny tiny to actually starting to put out some stuff. Pretty much nothing in this area right here grew that was planted. There's some basil over there that we planted, some little teeny tiny basils. Let's see if I can get close enough. Teeny tiny little basils. This little thing looks so tiny right now, but I know for a fact by the end of summer we'll be taking up as much space as I give it. These also will probably eventually need to get the bigger tomato cages as well, because right now they have like the small ones. And that brings us over here to our other bed, which has a lot of stuff in it, a lot of stuff going on here. So first of all, we have squash. In here, there's mostly tons of flowers, beans. These are beans, just like garden beans, like kind of like green beans, but not exactly green beans, I guess. More squash. But yeah, all of the big, like leafy sort of greens that you see, those are all flowers, I'm hoping. I think that they are because there's kind of some distinctive shapes and whatnot. There's kind of 3 clumps, which I did put in 3 different kinds of flowers that I don't remember right at this moment. Here's some more squash. Um, I had really old seeds, so I wasn't expecting this squash to pop off as much as it did, but it pretty much germinated. I put 3 seeds on each of these little mounds, and on all of them, all 3 seeds germinated. So the one you saw over there was moved, and then I moved another one over here. And then we have peas over here. So these are peas. They're starting to wrap around. Usually peas are like a spring, early summer thing, and I definitely didn't get these in the ground early enough. So we'll see. I mean, I started them from seed right here, and I didn't get those in the ground until, a month ago. So we'll see if we get too many peas this year, but it's good to know that they'll grow over here. Everything got so much water, like some of it is obviously got a little pummeled. And we have our 2 little protectors, 2 little duck protectors. One very last thing that I have going on is this sunflower and little basil pot. So this basil, that's actually just one plant right there, and then this one is the newest one that just popped up. And then there's also this sunflower that just came up because there's been sunflowers in this yard for years, and that's the pole that I'm going to use to hold the sunflower up if needed. But yeah, that basil's doing really good. This is hopefully going to be a pot that thrives really well. I just have a feeling. All right, starting back at the sage again. It is now June 15th, Saturday, June 15th, and we're checking on all the plants to see how they've grown since the 4th. So it's been about 11 days. As we can see, the basil is really taken off in pretty much every spot that it is. These were just babies last time. Also have a bunch of squash doing decently well. This one is doing maybe the best of all of them. We can also see that the calla lilies are really taken off, even more than I thought that they were. I think in the last video there was literally only this one guy and maybe one down there, and now there's a bunch poked up. There's even another little baby right there, so we'll see. Also, speaking of babies, all that little baby basil is now a bit bigger. I didn't end up thinning it out, so we'll have to see how it competes also with the weeds, because my goodness, there's some basil over there too, and then some at the back over there. But yeah, mostly right down the middle of this is all weeds, and it's just wild because I thought there was a lot of weeds in the last video that I showed you guys, and compared to this one, that was nothing. Marigold's still doing good. Again, weeds. We also have the tomatoes, which have been upgraded to bigger tomato cages. I went a size up because they were just growing a lot faster than I had expected, and I didn't want them to get stuck in those. But excitingly, we've got tomatoes. So there's like two there. I think there's one bigger one and then two that are started. They're kind of tucked back in there, so I didn't even realize until yesterday that there was anything over there. But the tomatoes are doing very well. And I kind of have these two cages like pointed away because these are the two closest. But then it kind of crowds these two. I don't know. There was maybe a better way to plant these. But what we got is what we got. There's this guy in the corner. But yeah, so many weeds. Oh, so much basil in here too. See, I do want to get in today and do some weeding. I was actually going to wait to make the video until I was done weeding, but then I decided, you know what? Might as well see how it really is. And it's also hot, and who knows if I'll even get around to the weeding today. But then over in our other patch, we've got some stuff doing pretty well as well. So I realized after the last video, I think I said something about how it would be funny if one of the things that I was not weeding was actually a weed. And it turns out that's what I was doing. So one of the things that was in here that looked like it was making it, that was like doing really well, it was actually this type of plant. That's actually just a weed. It's just not weed. So I do have some stuff coming up over here. Apparently some marigolds. Not really sure. Don't think anybody planted those, so we'll see. These are, in theory, calendula. And then we've got our beans back here. Those are about to flower, and then they will put out like green beans from there, I suppose. I have to believe that by the end of June, we will have some beans on here. I don't know how well these guys are doing compared to what they're supposed to be. Seems like it might be hot for them, but I don't know. Over here we have a volunteer sunflower, which is that guy, so I am going to let it go, even though it'll get huge. We've got a couple squash over here. I'm really feeling like I might have to thin these out and take out one of each of these sets of squash because it just feels like they're really competing with each other. So then also there's this coming up, which I think is that as well. I'm thinking that might be one of the flowers that I planted, but we'll see. My app, my photo app, is telling me that it's amaranth, and I don't think I planted amaranth. So these are the peas. They're doing okay. We also then have this squash over here. This is the most shady squash that there is, meaning it's in the most shade, but it does also have this whole barrel to itself. So I also have a feeling this one's going to do pretty well. Honestly, the ones that are by themselves are just doing so much better than the ones that are not by themselves. So I might just have to pull out the weakest one of these ones, which feels sad, but also like it's kind of the way of nature, I suppose. More basil that's really doing very well. In the middle here is just one stalk of basil that's already split off a couple of times because I've been pruning it really heavily. And it's actually kind of funny because in the last video, there was a little tiny baby basil. In this one, there's a little tiny baby basil, but that grew in 10 days. This one had been this size 10 days ago. Now it's that size. And then here's another project that I did this weekend, which is to put in these lavenders, which I got from Sprouts on like a super steep discount. So I don't know how well they're going to do this season. But lavender is pretty hardy, I've heard, and so my hope, oh, there's a worm. My hope is that the lavender, if it doesn't do the best this season, then will at least come back in the future. So we'll see. And I made just like a little, put that in the ground. Didn't cost me anything, just some elbow grease. This is also supposedly, according to my phone app, this is a milkweed. So I'm going to let that grow because that's good for pollinators and stuff. And then we also have this sunflower situation over here, which looks as though it's about to poke out a sunflower. It's pretty short. So we'll see. It looks like it's going to maybe put out multiple flowers, but I'm not sure. All right, we are back for the last installment of the updates on the garden for this June. It is now June 24th, so 20 days past that first day that I was doing a bunch of stuff. So as we can see, things are popping off. I'm going to run through stuff really quickly because it is super, super hot. We are in the middle of a crazy heat wave. But as we can see, sage doing insanely amazing. We've got this squash doing absolutely amazing. It's kind of funny because this one is so big, but it's doing a little bit less than some of the ones over there in terms of putting out fruit. But I can see some stuff started over there. We've got these two basils that actually came from that same pot that are doing really well. Our calla lilies are so tall, and I ended up with 6 of them or 7 of them. That one's poking out 3 from one little root there, one little bulb there. Those basils were the ones that were teeny tiny at the beginning, and now they are actually big enough that I harvested some leaves from them yesterday. And I've got a big bag of basil in the fridge, hoping to be made into pesto in the next couple of weeks once I get more. I've also got tomatoes doing better than any tomatoes I have ever tried to grow in my life. So I'll give you a little brief overview and then zoom in on some of them. I think I've got a couple varieties going on here because this one, as you can see, has this very specific type versus this one, which is putting out so much fruit. It's actually insane. We've got those there, and even more coming in and more coming in. And then as we can see, so many more flowers as well. This one, the tomatoes look a little bit different shaped. I don't know if that's just because of the amount of water that this one is getting versus other ones, but we'll see. This one is kind of the same as that second one, has little pockets of fruit here. And then this one has the same situation as that first one, where it's kind of given us a huge, like that is so many tomatoes on one little vine there. I'm so impressed. So impressed. And then as we can see, the calla lilies, they start small, but they get really tall. And then over here in this bed, just a really quick overview. We've got our squash doing pretty well. This one is actually our best one in terms of the fruit that it's been putting out. Unfortunately, it's only been putting out female fruit so far, so I need some male flowers to be able to actually pollinate. We've got our marigolds. Oh, there's some marigolds here. There's also marigolds over here that are doing pretty well, though none of them have flowered yet. But we've got these marigolds over here, and then this is calendula, which also has not flowered yet, but hopefully sometime soon. And just more squash. This one over here actually gives us a great view of what I mean when I talk about female versus male plants. So the ones there with the little, that looks like a little start of a squash, those are female plants. And then the one there at the very bottom without that, that's a male flower. And so once those actually bloom, I can use the male flowers to help pollinate the female fruit. But yeah, so I'm hoping we're going to be swimming in squash by the end of the summer. We've also got beans coming in earnest now. Still pretty small, and I don't know if they're going to get much bigger or if also kind of all the fruit that they're putting out right now, all the beans that they're putting out right now means that all of these are going to die after that. But that's our first real bean there. And every single one of those little purple flowers that you see will also turn into a garden bean. The peas, I am actually starting to see some pea flowers. That's exciting. Those should hopefully turn into fruit as well. This is my favorite little pot of basil over here doing so well. This is only 4 basil plants. So you see that tiny one, that more medium size, and then those 2 large guys. This is one basil stem right here, And I'm actually hoping, I think I'm going to probably dig that one out and put it into another pot because this is not quite enough room for all of this basil. This is a milkweed, which was just a volunteer plant, but I am leaving alive, obviously. And then, unfortunately, we have our very dead lavender. Maybe it'll pop some more stuff out, or also I'm hoping that maybe the flowers that have now died and are dropping their seeds, that maybe that will end up with something later this season or even next year. Would be totally fine by me. Still got our sunflower over here, which is kind of like branched off in a way that I wasn't expecting, and also looks a bit mutated, the actual flower. Like it's like three flowers in one. I don't know. You can't really see it very well, but yeah, it's kind of three flowers in one, which again, I was not necessarily expecting. Thank you so much for watching along this month. I put out a video every single month on YouTube, so make sure to hit like and subscribe if you want to stay up to date. Also, definitely check out Divine Delectable Delirious, a Gilmore Girls analysis podcast on Spotify. Thank you so much again for watching. And next is going to be just a little slideshow of some pieces of the garden from June 4th to June 24th. Enjoy.